Is it off? Okay, and then the mic 1, is that on still? Okay, let's turn it on. Yeah. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, perfect. Let's turn off the first camera. So we'll start talking here, test 1, 2, 3, and then we'll get up close, see what happens here. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
So the videos.
Sounds pretty good. Is it loud enough? Yeah.
Mic check 1 2 2 test test. Check 1 2 2 test test. 1 2
At Kennedy High School and also Magnolia High School. But before we do that, I want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Can we please rise? The flag is that way. The flag is that way. Right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. So being in Anaheim Union High School District means that students are in innovative spaces, they are being creative, and they are trying to find their voice and purpose. So this is just a glimpse into two of the most innovative programs, if not the most innovative programs in California and across the country that you'll find. This here, the first part, the video you'll see here is what's happening here at Kennedy. It's a short minute and 30-second clip, and then followed by what's happening at Cybersecurity, which is a little more in depth. So with that, Mr. Bautista, if you could press play. Thank you. That was put together in a rather short time for this evening. Thank you to Paolo Rosenberg and Matthew Corcoran, who work here with our students. The next video you'll see is a little more lengthy. It's about 7 minutes, but I think it's appropriate to show what Magnolia High School has done in developing their cybersecurity pathway, their exclusive pathway. Some of the celebrities of the video are in the audience, so thank you for doing this for our district and our kids. And a little shout out to Dale Junior High School in the house, and also Walker from across the street. As you know, these are 6-year educational plans that our counselors partner with parents for. So Dale and Walker are very much a part of our pathway. So with that, here is cyber. It's up there. It says AI Town Hall video. No.
it started, over 2 years ago when Manuel Colon actually called me and said, we're thinking about starting a cybersecurity program at Magnolia. Would you be interested in being one of the teachers of it? So I was like, I was done with junior high. I was ready to move on to a new challenge and jumped right on it. A few weeks getting, what are we doing? What do we need to teach these kids? And we just started, from there. And then Cypress College came in with dual enrollment, with the mentors, and we just started talking with business industries and going, okay, what do you need our kids to know before they come to you? And they started filling in those gaps. And we started doing conferences with cybersecurity, with NICE, and with CTE, and they started filling in those gaps. And so we've had a lot of outside support going, here's what we're really looking for. We can teach a lot of the hard skills. You need to teach them the soft skills in addition to a good foundation. So if you can get those foundational skills accomplished with your kids, we can take it from there.
Cybersecurity started here 3 years ago. We're now into our 3rd year. We now have 2 classes in the pathway, Cyber Literacy 1 and then Cyber Literacy 2. The pathway has come to include dual enrollment classes for cybersecurity and also includes preparation for industry certifications.
The cybersecurity pathway here at Dell gives students opportunity to learn some of the basic skills to protect computer systems against potential hackers and cyber attacks. Students learn how to harden Linux, Cisco, and other Windows programs. This is a terrific opportunity for students to learn 21st century skills.
I'd say that Cyber Patriots is really fun because we get to know all about cybersecurity and how to defend computer against attacks, and that it's honestly really fun in general.
So basically what cybersecurity is, it's like we learn more about programs, and it teaches us how to secure softwares and then other people's privacy, like bank accounts and stuff. We learn about systems and more about the computers and how to secure people's privacy, like bank accounts and other private stuff, and we just use firewall for that.
If students decide to continue on with this pathway, they'll be able to apply to the Magnolia Cybersecurity Institute at Magnolia High School, and as a part of the dual enrollment program at Magnolia High School and with Cypress College, once students graduate from Magnolia High School, they'll already have a year's worth of college credits, and their first year of tuition is completely covered. Also, as a part of the Anaheim Union High School District Pledge, once students complete their coursework in cybersecurity at Cypress College and earn their industry certifications, they'll immediately be able to take on an entry-level position, or if they'd like to continue on their education, they can get guaranteed enrollment at Cal State Fullerton or preferred entrance to UCI.
I would say the pathway is very hands-on, and that's the fun part of it, because a lot of classes you just sit there and listen, where this one you learn, but you also get to interact and you get to work with stuff that you will be doing in the workforce if you continue on with this.
It's nice to have a teacher, or even two, in a whole program designed to help you learn these programming languages. And also just gives me a community, whereas it's sometimes hard in the tech fields. It's always just usernames and profiles that you have to learn through, but to have a one-on-one with an actual person is great.
So in terms of workforce skills, I'm really proud of the classes that we have here, because we don't just teach technical theory, we teach them the hands-on skills that they would need on the job.
This one teaching a lot of collaboration, because you have to work in a team when you're in a company. You're not by yourself doing little work, you are working in a group. You each have your task, you each have your job. There's so much problem solving going on with computers because nothing works the first time, and you've got to figure out why it didn't work, learn from your mistakes, learn from your failures, and keep moving forward. So that we also teach them grit. You don't just give up. I can't do it. Sometimes there's no one you can turn to for help. You got to figure it out yourself.
So everything that we do in the classes is something that they would need to do if they were going to be hired as a tier 1, help desk technician.
There's an estimated 1.8 million global cybersecurity jobs that will go unfilled over the next 10 years. So with the high demand and the limited supply, it puts our students in the driver's seat to take on these positions if they do in fact complete this pathway.
A lot of the workforce skills, especially in business, what you're going to learn is using Word and Excel, just basically using the computer, because a bunch of things are going to be using computers nowadays. It's going to be taken over by technology and very soon.
What I like best about this pathway is the clear roadmap that the district has laid out for our students to follow. and the tremendous career opportunities that our students can take advantage of.
The thing of the pathway is those people you get to meet along the way, the trips we take to businesses, because you really have this outside view of looking into companies, and then now you're going into the companies and seeing how it all goes around.
What I enjoy most about this pathway is that it's hands-on. I love just getting involved. I love being a part of the action and getting to have a feel of it for what there is later in life. And I love how you get to also interact with people, and you get to know them, and you get to have a feel for how they are, and you get to really just bond with them, and you know how to work with them and what you and them can do together. Because you may be good on your own, but two minds working together, that's even better.
I definitely have to say my favorite thing about the program is working with students who are curious about technology and working with students who are hungry for knowledge. And I'm also really happy that I'm teaching things that are on the forefront of what students need to learn in terms of skills they would use in the workforce.
How do I take my knowledge and I push it forward into new stuff, new innovation? We'll be going with innovation for next year, where the kids will actually be creating what they're passionate about. And whether that is with the Raspberry Pi, Spheros, we don't even know yet. Some of the technology hasn't even been invented yet that we're going to be teaching. So a lot of it is we learn it with the kids because it hasn't been done yet. And I like that aspect of the class because there's nothing set in stone. It's not that our curriculum today will not be our curriculum 5 years from now. It will have changed that drastically, that quickly.
Thank you, Magnolia High School. And thank you for your cooperation with those interesting voiceovers. Just want to acknowledge that. At this time, I do want to bring up and introduce our Superintendent of Anaheim Union High School District, who's definitely on the front lines of innovation and learning, Mr. Michael Matsuda.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez. I want to put a shout out to our principals for helping to build these amazing pathways. I know Adam Hernandez and his staff has been working very hard to create the region's most advanced pathway in artificial intelligence, along with all the teachers. So shout out to Adam and your team. Also, I know that we have Jeremy Sell representing Walker Junior High, which feeds into Kennedy. Then we have, I think Karen Dabney's in the audience, the principal of Magnolia High School, and of course her team and teachers that have helped build an amazing pathway at Cybersecurity at Magnolia High School. Please give a round of applause to her team. This could not happen without the leadership and support of our board, and we have two of our board members here in the audience today. We have Mr. Brian O'Neill, Board of Trustees, Anne Marie Randall Trejo, Board of Trustees. And I want to just quickly introduce some of the district people. Mr. Eric Greenwood, Director of IT here for the district, and he and his team have done an amazing job protecting our district from hacking and just fighting the good fight on the behalf of public schools. Mr. Scott Rendell, who's oversees all of the workforce pathways here. Of course, our PIO, Mr. John Batista, who's busily trying to multitask there. John, thank you so much. Real quickly, I'm so thankful to the students and parents who are here, and also I know there's some watching on the live stream as well. As many of us in the audience know, that cybersecurity and cyber threat is a growing international problem and challenge. It's projected to cost the United States nearly $1 trillion over the next 5 to 10 years in lost revenue, both impacting us personally. Many people have had horror stories of being identity hacked and all of that, but as well as corporate and nonprofit and definitely schools. In fact, schools are probably ranked the lowest in terms of cybersecurity awareness and protection. And this is a big problem nationally because schools are going to get hacked and student data is going to, it's vulnerable. And thankfully to Eric and his team, we are protecting you and your identity. But more importantly, we are building, your capacity as future leaders. You're going to hear from our guest speaker, an amazing guy, about all the job opportunities in cybersecurity. I'm very proud of our team because we are leading Southern California in developing the world-class cybersecurity and artificial intelligence pathways through our schools. I want to just give I'm sure we're going to hear more about the challenges here, but the United States is the #1 target worldwide in cyber threats. I mean, by far, we have more cyber threats than any country. I think the #2 country is India, and we're more than double, unfortunately. 43% of the businesses that are hacked and through ransomware and malware, which you'll hear more about, are small businesses. And they're very vulnerable because they do not have the staffing to protect themselves. Same thing with our schools and our municipalities. Police forces do not have the capacity to really protect our data, right? And that's what it's all about. And, you know, as we fight this war on COVID, we're also fighting the fight of false information. A lot of that false information is being planted through governments like Russia and stuff like that, through social media, and creating CDC websites that are absolutely false. This is all part of the cybersecurity problems that the United States faces, because this information is undermining our ability to fight a real threat in the COVID virus. One of many, many examples as we go forward together. When I grew up in Garden Grove as a little kid, I remember the Boys and Girls Club and after-school programs telling us about don't accept candy from strangers, right? Stay away from those people in cars that are trying to lure you into the car. And I think in this world of social media, we forget, especially the message to parents, that our kids are accepting candy all the time through social media, and we don't even realize it. And we're letting strangers into our households, and we don't even realize it. So this is a real threat, not only to each one of us as individuals, but to our society. I'm so thankful to introduce, for the second time in AUHSD, a special guest, Mr. Rahul Gupta. Mr. Gupta is the Senior Trial Deputy for the Orange County District Attorney's Office. He specializes in prosecuting cybercrime in the Major Fraud Unit. Mr. Gupta has a background in technology and currently teaches attorneys and law enforcement across the country about this important issue. He specializes in digital evidence and social media. Mr. Gupta received his bachelor's degree in history from UCLA and his JD from Notre Dame Law School. He started his career as a corporate litigator and then as an account manager for an internet company. More importantly, though, Mr. Gupta is vested. He's got 2 small children. He and his wife have 2 children. In fact, he's going to be rushing off to be the nanny tonight, right? So he really volunteers his time because he believes in the future of this country, as well as the future of his children and all of our children. Please, ladies and gentlemen, warm welcome for Mr. Rahul Gupta. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Mike. That was a fantastic introduction. Thank you all for coming today. I really do appreciate it. I hope you'll enjoy the presentation. Just want to start off by thanking Mike and thanking the board, thanking our state and local law enforcement, and also thanking my boss, Todd Spitzer. He's the elected district attorney of Orange County, who's really committed to prosecuting cybercrime and making sure that our community stays safe, not just in our neighborhoods, but also online. So my presentation today is really to discuss 2 things. One is cybersecurity and cybercrime trends that are affecting you and your family here in Orange County, but also the new advances that AI has brought to cybersecurity, both on the offensive and the defensive side. But my presentation is really meant to be practical for you, to help you understand how this might affect you and touch your life in what you do every day, and leave you with some just practical things that you could do to make yourselves and your family a little bit more cyber safe each and every day. All right? Now, I'm a lawyer, so I got to start with a legal disclaimer, right? So I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. So nothing I intend to say here is to be taken as legal advice or financial advice. It's just some observations I've made throughout my career that I think could be helpful to you in your community. So Michael just mentioned about cybercrime as a whole. The estimate is going to be over $6 trillion globally. The impact that we see and that we feel on a daily basis is tremendous. You know, in LA County, they lose more money per month to cybercrime victimization than they do to bank robberies. Okay? So the money is in cybercrime, and the money on the defensive side is in cybersecurity. So it's a growing field. They're constantly looking for employees, and that's an opportunity, right? As Michael also mentioned, there's a lot of false information out there. The concept within cybersecurity is, hey, never let a natural disaster go to waste. Because what happens when there's a natural disaster? People turn to the internet for information. And when you're looking for trusted information, those people who are trying to take advantage of you try and use false information to dupe you. So COVID-19 has been no different. We've seen a tremendous amount of rise in criminal activity. And just also, again, as Michael was saying, is we have to have a paradigm shift in the way that we think about cybercrime. Each and every one of you, probably when you were growing up, your parent told you, hey, when you get to an intersection, look both ways, right? Look left, right, and left again. So here's an example that you can take home with you. If you or your parent or a loved one, you get an email, hey, look for 3 things right off the bat. Who is the greeting to? Is the greeting generic or generic? Intended for you, it's intended for a mass audience, right? Then secondly, look for spelling mistakes. When these mass emails go out to lure you to click or download something, oftentimes they contain spelling mistakes, and that's a telltale sign that this is a cybersecurity threat. And lastly, is there a download link, or do they want you to download some information? And if they do, what is that information? Because oftentimes those downloads contain malware or some type of virus to infect your computer. So in the same way that you look both ways when you come to an intersection, start looking for these 3 attributes when you get an email that may be suspicious or may be enticing to you, especially in times of national emergencies or national disasters. When information is at a premium, think twice before you go further with that email, right? One thing that I want to highlight for you is these are statistics put out by the FBI every year from a website called ic3.gov. That is their Internet Criminal Complaint Center. And it totals the statistics of cybercrime throughout the United States. And as you can see by this chart, the most vulnerable of the population are those above 60 years of age. So if you live in a residence where you have a grandparent or your grandparents are close to you, take extra special precaution to assist them in making sure that they don't become a victim of cybercrime, because they are being specifically targeted. Now, California is a wonderful place, and we're #1 in a lot of things. Unfortunately, we're also #1 in being the #1 target for cybercrime. Not only do we have the most victims in the United States, but also we have the highest total of loss for each of our victims. So it's definitely not, it's not good to be first place in this category, right? But it's not just statewide, it affects us here in Orange County as well. UCI just suffered a cyber attack. The company, Kia and Hyundai, they suffered a cyber attack of ransomware. So it's affecting not just everyone throughout the state, but it's affecting us locally here as well. When we think about cybercrime and we think about any type of self-defense, right? What is always the weakest chain? It's us as human beings, right? Because what happens? You start to get tired. You had so many emails in a day. You get so many text messages. It's very easy to put your guard down. But we have to always be resilient. We always have to be looking out to say, hey, this email or this link that I'm about to click, is it safe or is it not safe, right? And what I really want you to know is your email account is really the castle. It holds the keys to everything, right? Because all your passwords and everything link back to an email. Whenever you log into your bank account, they're going to say which email are you using. Whenever you log into your retirement account or any type of account, it's always going to come back to your email. So if I could leave you with one thing, it's make sure that your main email account that you use is extremely safe. And there's 2 easy ways to do that. You can use something called 2-factor authentication and have a very strong password. What is 2-factor authentication? That is where you may have encountered some of these websites or account. In addition to your password, they're going to send you a code to your phone or to another device that you have. to ensure that the person trying to log into your email account is really you. And you can get Google Authenticator. That's a two-factor authentication software that's completely free. So you could set that up right now for you and your family. Secondly, you got to have a strong password. Over the past 11 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 has been one of the most common passwords. So hopefully by now you've been trained to have one capital letter, one lowercase, one special character, and maybe a passphrase instead of just a simple password. So those are 2 easy steps that you can take today to make yourself more cyber secure. Also, if you've had an email account for a long time, you can go to this website and put in the email account, and it will tell you whether your email has been compromised in a previous data hack. These days, every day you're seeing new and new data privacy breaches. How are you supposed to know whether or not your email was in there? Well, what this website does is it collects all the companies that have been hacked, and it runs through to see whether or not your email is in there or not. And it doesn't compromise your email, it's just to help you figure out, hey, do I need to change the password to my email because it may have been compromised? These are some common cyber trends that we're seeing right here in Orange County. Unfortunately, ransomware is only growing. What is ransomware? It's when a virus or a malware attacks your computer and locks all of your data, and the only way that you can get access to your data is by paying a ransom, usually in some type of cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, the statistics for ransomware just keep growing and growing and growing. It's becoming a national problem and a global problem. Some of you may have heard of this issue that came up earlier in the year, Colonial Pipeline. The whole pipeline was shut down in a matter of minutes because of the ransomware. It caused gas shortages, it caused gas prices to increase. It was a massive structural failure, not just for the company, but it affected many people in many different states. Ransomware is not going away anytime soon, and it's something that you need to be aware about. Ransomware attacks can happen as often as 14 times every second, okay? And how are they going to attack you? The same way. It's going to be an email with a fake download link in some way to ask you to infect your computer. So the more cautious you are about your email, the more that you can help prevent ransomware. Now, education, you just being here, is one of the best things that we have to protect against cybersecurity threats. Just becoming educated on what to look for. If you can go back and take this to your family, share it with your friends, tell them, explain to them, hey, here are some things to look out for if you get an email, that will help us tremendously. But the silver bullet all the time for ransomware is simple. If your data is locked, but you have a copy or a backup, then you don't have to pay the ransom. So you can go to Costco or you could go to a local store and buy an external hard drive and just copy over your important data. So for example, your photos, let's say, or you could upload them to the cloud. You can store them on Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive. Just have a separate place where you back up your data, and then you'll never be in the position where you have to pay to get it back. So the threat vectors are expanding just beyond email. So it's email, it's your phone, and it's your text messages. So when it's an email, we call that phishing, which is someone is sending you a malicious email and trying to get your credentials. When it comes from a text message, we call that smishing. Text message is also known as SMS, short messaging service. And when it's over the phone, we call that vishing. And I'll give you an example of vishing in a second. So vishing is just doing it over the phone. So let's see if this is going to work. This is an example of vishing and how easy it is for someone to use the phone to try and access one of your accounts and get credentials.
They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for usage information, and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying, and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
All right, so that's an example of vishing, which is where someone uses an attack over the phone to pretend to be you or someone in your family to get access to your account. So you can see how cybersecurity and cybercrime is evolving to go just past a simple email to compromise your accounts and get access to your accounts. Another big threat that we face and that we are assisting businesses with all the time is called business email compromise. And again, what this is using an email to try and lure someone in a company to send money using a wire transfer. So here you can see King Plastics. If the company's name was kingplastics.com, I just made that up as a fake example, right? What they would do is they would register the domain of King Plastics with 2 S's, okay? And then they would send an email to someone inside that company pretending to be the CEO or someone else and saying, hey, I need you to do this transaction very quickly. Usually they send this email on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday right around 4 o'clock when everyone is heading out the door, and it appears to be from the CEO, and they say, hey, we need you to do this immediately, right? To try and send out the wire, okay? So if you're in a small or medium business, you should always be cautious that on Thursday or Friday, hey, if you get a request for a wire transfer, be very suspicious of that, okay? Now, I can tell you that we have had some successes in Orange County, okay? This was a real estate BEC compromise in which the victim thought that she was sending the money for her dream house, $1.2 million. But what it turned out was the real estate agent had been hacked, the email that came to her was fraudulent, and the wiring instructions were fake. Now, luckily, because we had done some outreach, they contacted us very quickly. We were able to leverage our partnership with federal authorities and to stop the wire and get her money back. So this is an example where if you act quickly and you contact law enforcement quickly when you realize that you've been duped, there are times where we can actually assist you. Now, this was using a wire transfer, which uses banks, and so the banking system in the United States is very strong, and so we could do that. But if you're in a situation such as in ransomware, where they're asking you to use cryptocurrency, then that could be much more difficult to trace and get back. How can you help prepare yourself and your family? So Google has set up this thing called the phishing quiz. And what you can do on this, it's totally free, it doesn't compromise you in any way. It basically shows you fake emails that are from fake companies, and it helps you understand how to decipher what is fake about the email. And so this is something that you could show to someone in your family, your parent, maybe even your grandparent, and say, hey, why don't you take this quiz to see how effective you are in determining whether an email is fake or not. These are the type of skills that if you start developing can really go a long way to making you more cyber safe. So some basic common things to do to avoid being phished, smished, or vished. Right? If somebody calls you over the phone, never give your personal information over the phone. Never ever give payment information over the phone. Just always remember, there's always a scam, especially around tax time, that someone will pretend to be from the IRS or the FBI or maybe even from the sheriff's department saying, unless you pay this amount, you may be arrested or whatever. Just always remember, any legitimate authority will never demand money or payment. And most of the times, any legitimate authority will be contacting you is through the mail, not through the phone. Okay? So that's another thing that you can always impress upon, especially the elder in our community, who usually are at home and usually have a landline and are more susceptible to being duped over the phone. Those are some really basic things that you can communicate to them to help keep them safe. Obviously, as I mentioned, your email is your castle. It has all the keys to what accounts that you're referencing. So try and always have two-factor authentication and also have a strong password to secure your email. Because once someone gets access to your email, then they can start accessing your other accounts, and when they say forgot password, it will come back to your email address. So once your email is compromised, it really is the keys to the castle to all the accounts that you hold, right? And again, to defeat ransomware, backups. Always make sure that you have a backup, okay? If you're gonna send a wire transfer, especially in a real estate transaction, before you send the wire, call the recipient. Make sure the instructions are accurate and make sure they know that you're about to send the money so that you don't end up in a BEC compromise, all right? So artificial intelligence, how does that play into cybersecurity? So just as the video that you saw with vishing, cyber criminals are becoming more sophisticated. Artificial intelligence is taking on a whole new dimension as it relates to cybersecurity and cybercrime. For many years, we've been studying the difference between animals and humans. And we've realized that animals generally are motivated by instinct, whereas human beings, we can do problem solving. And for many years, we've said that's the difference between humans and computers as well. Computers, when given a task, can do discrete tasks. But computers couldn't necessarily problem solve and learn from their mistakes in the same way humans can. But that's all changing with artificial intelligence. Here's a definition of artificial intelligence that I found online that you could find in any dictionary. And it's basically teaching computers to think like human beings, to learn from their mistakes and to problem solve. Here's a definition from artificial intelligence that was created by a computer. The computer was given data to think about, and it came up with this as a definition. And if you Google this definition, it's not located anywhere on the internet. So this is a computer thinking about a question it was asked as to define artificial intelligence, and it defined it this way. It's accurate, but it didn't exist anywhere on the internet. So it wasn't that the computer just went out and copied some information. This is a computer actually thinking and coming up with this. We've seen many examples of computers now moving not just to the equivalency of human beings, but moving beyond. So some of you may recognize this individual. He's a world chess champion, Garry Kasparov. He lost to Deep Blue, which was an IBM computer in chess. On Jeopardy! IBM's Watson was able to defeat Mr. Jennings over here, who is known as the world champion in Jeopardy! You may be using AI and not know it. If you have Alexa at home or you have a Google Home, every time that you ask one of those speakers to find information for you, that is AI at work. What it does is it starts to recognize your voice, it starts to understand the things that you want, and it starts to get that data faster based on the pattern of things that you've asked for in the past. So it gets smarter with time. And essentially what AI does, there's a subset called machine learning, which is the computer starts to learn based on patterns and data from the past. In the same way we learn as human beings from our mistakes and from reading additional data, the computers are starting to learn. But what you should start to realize is there's good uses of this and there could be bad uses of this or nefarious uses, right? So what's a good use? For cybersecurity defense, right, when you really look at the amount of cyber attacks that we're facing, we as human beings, how many emails can we check for spelling mistakes and generic greetings and looking for download links? On a daily basis after some time, we just can't do it. So this is an area where AI, if we train the computers on what to look for, they can start finding some of these cyber threats. Not only that, they can start finding those cyber threats in a whole network of an IT infrastructure. So these are places where AI can be used for defense and really help protect all of our infrastructure. So AI opportunities in cybersecurity are growing very rapidly. But there's more applications of AI. In the legal field, in my field, they've trained AI computers to look at contracts, and they did a study. And they found that the computer was better at judging contracts and finding errors than actual human beings, actual attorneys. The computer had surpassed the quality and the standard of the attorneys themselves. Not only that now, as Michael had mentioned, there's a lot of false information. Computers are being taught how to generate actual stories and articles, and they can be taught to generate fake stories and articles that look identical to real stories. So you can see where this skill set can be used in nefarious ways to alter how we think about information and the world. When we think about AI and we think about cybersecurity, there's a new threat out there called deep fakes. And what that means is they teach the computer to alter what the image is of what somebody looks like. So I'm going to show you an example of that and see if you can tell the difference between the speaker and the person who's actually involved. Let's see if this works.
We're entering an era in which our enemies can make it look like anyone is saying anything at any point in time.
Jordan Peele created this fake video of President Obama to demonstrate how easy it is to put words in someone else's mouth.
Moving forward, we need to be more vigilant with what we trust from the internet.
Not everyone bought it, but the technology behind such frauds is rapidly improving, even as worries increase about their potential for harm. This is your Bloomberg Quick Take on deep fakes.
Right? So you could see as the gentleman was speaking, the words were coming out of President Obama's mouth. Right? That is AI technology in real time, learning the facial features of the person talking, and then using voice altering software to mimic what is being said. Okay? So I showed you an example of vishing where someone over the phone is pretending to be someone else. Imagine being on a Zoom call with somebody that you think is a real person, but in reality, it's a deep fake, right? And we do a lot more business over Zoom. You could be duped into a transaction with a computer. It's not just facial features also. You can use deep fakes to impersonate voices. So this is an actual crime that occurred in Europe. They used deep fake technology to mimic the person's voice to get someone in the company to send out money. Now, this is a real video that you can see on YouTube. This is a technology that Google created, all right? And you're going to hear the voice. And what I want you to pay attention to is, and you'll hear him describe it, this is the CEO of Google, that the voice who's making the appointment is actually not a real person, but a computer, okay? So you saw an example of deep fakes where the person is impersonating President Obama. Now you're going to see a computer actually talking as if they're a human being.
So let's go back to this example. Let's say you want to ask Google to make you a haircut appointment on Tuesday between 10 and noon. What happens is the Google Assistant makes the call seamlessly in the background for you. So what you're going to hear is the Google Assistant actually calling a real salon to schedule the appointment for you. Let's listen.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a woman's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15. Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.? Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for? Just a woman's haircut for now. Okay, we have a 10 o'clock. 10 a.m. is fine. Okay, what's her first name? The first name is Lisa. Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd. Okay, great. Thanks. Great. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay, they're all cheering and I'm all crying, right? So that conversation was between a real person at the hair salon and a computer. And the computer was programmed not only to sound like a human being, but I don't know if you could tell, the responses at some times were to mimic the actual cadence and dialogue of a real human being. So you can see from a cybersecurity perspective, AI, it does have tremendous value and opportunity, but it also is creating new frontiers for us on the cybercrime side of things that we could never have even imagined other than in the movies. That you could actually encounter someone who is a criminal who has duped you into a transaction where you lose money, but it's not even a real person at all. It's either a deep fake person or it was a phishing attack done by a computer, right? So these are real things that AI is confronting us with. But with every problem that exists, there's always an opportunity. And that's one thing that I want to end with, to give you hope and to give you opportunity, right? If you look at where AI is headed, AI has tremendous value for people like Amazon. Amazon is going to be hiring incredibly a large group of individuals. So if you have any interest at all in AI, there's going to be tremendous career opportunities for you. But really the main opportunity and the reason that you're here is for cybersecurity. Right now we have a skills gap in cybersecurity, and it is a tremendous gap, and it's one that you could be filling today if you keep on these pathways that Michael has created and his team has created for you. That was a global figure of 3.5 million. Just in North America, there's a shortage of 300,000. But let's drill down a little bit closer. I just did this on Indeed, which is a job hunting website, and I just typed in simply cybersecurity in Orange County, okay? According to Indeed, there are over 1,000 cybersecurity jobs here in Orange County itself. And when you look at the pay scale, it ranges from $90,000 to $140,000. At $140,000, they're listing 180 jobs, okay? I don't know how to make this any more clear to you. If you're looking for opportunity and you are a young person, cybersecurity has jobs waiting for you, just waiting for you. So I can't emphasize enough how important these cybersecurity pathways are and how fortunate you are that due to Michael's leadership that you have these opportunities, because I can tell you, I speak in many, many different places. There are a lot of jurisdictions that don't have these opportunities, so don't let them go to waste. Here, I know you have a long relationship and a powerful relationship with Cypress College. On their own website, they have estimates for what different types of cybersecurity jobs can earn. And I don't know if Henry's here today, but he just got an award for his leadership for the cybersecurity pathway and his program that he's created. And his quote I thought was very telling, that there isn't a business that doesn't need cybersecurity, and without cyber, there is no business. I think that is a perfect quote that sums up not just my presentation, but the current state of affairs that reflects the cybersecurity threat that we face, not only as a nation, but as a community, but also the cybersecurity opportunity that presents for you as a young person today. And I don't want to just single out Cypress College. There are many universities in our jurisdiction that present this opportunity for you. Cal State Fullerton, Coastline College specifically is targeting cybersecurity, and also UCI. Now, some of you may be saying, hey, I don't have enough money to attend one of these universities. Just Google cybersecurity scholarships. There are amazing scholarships and opportunities out there for you as a young person. And even then, if you think you can't afford that, there are tons and tons of free cyber courses online. Any one of these that you could go. SANS is the leader in cyber education. They offer a free class online right now. Udemy offers free classes. Khan Academy offers free classes. There is no limit on the opportunities that exist for you to become an expert in cybersecurity, in addition to the pathways that are created here in your school district. Now, some takeaways for you and your family. These are some resources, whether you're a small, medium business person or you're just a community member, that you can rely on. Also, I wanted to direct some special attention to the Orange County Sheriff's Department. The Orange County Sheriff's Department is the only law enforcement agency in Orange County that staffs 2 full-time cybercrime deputies that are here to serve the community. So if you're fortunate enough to live in a jurisdiction patrolled by the sheriff, you have 2 full-time deputies. In addition to that, the FBI here in Orange County is very proactive in assisting you. Now, they collect data on that IC3 website that I talked about. So if in your jurisdiction, your local police agency isn't servicing your needs, they will direct you to the FBI. So all I can tell you is that there are resources available, but the bottom line is this. As law enforcement, we cannot be there every moment of every day to assist you in deciding which email to open and which link not to click or to click. The reason that I'm here today is to help assist you, and hopefully you'll spread the word to your friends and family on these little things that you could do to make yourself more cyber safe. Because really, this is going to take help from all of us. This is a problem that's facing not just Orange County, not just California, but the United States as a whole. And working together, we can overcome this cyber threat, but we really all need to take a little initiative on ourselves. And so, like I said, in the same way that we've raised our children to look both ways when it comes to an intersection, let's start reiterating to our children how to be cyber safe. And I think Michael has done a tremendous job here in this district, creating these cybersecurity pathways, and it's amazing to me to see in that video such young people at an early age learning not just basic cybersecurity, but advanced cybersecurity skills that are not only going to make their community safe, but are going to generate tremendous income opportunities for them once they graduate, not just high school, but college as well. So that's my presentation today. I want to thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you found it valuable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I do, if there's any questions in the audience, I'm sure that Mr. Gupta has a few minutes to address anything that's come up. You can come straight up to the mic if you have a question. I actually have one myself. Sure. My thought is those that commit cyber crimes, how difficult is it to prosecute them with any evidence of any sort? How do you track them down?
So that's a great question. Oftentimes it's very difficult because many times, as Michael had mentioned, the perpetrators of these crimes are in jurisdictions where the country allows them to perpetrate these crimes. So if they're in one of those jurisdictions, it's very difficult for us to prosecute them. But also, many of the people that we rely upon are not very cyber aware or have the cyber technical skills. I can tell you we work very closely with the FBI. They are constantly looking for digital forensic examiners. So I know forensics is something that Cypress College really specializes in. So again, there's a tremendous need both in the private sector and in the public sector for those individuals that have cyber skills. And so if you can bring those to law enforcement, it would help us tremendously in trying to catch some of these cyber criminals.
And how long would, say, an educational pathway take you from out of high school to landing a job at a company that's in need with the number of jobs that are there?
So what I can tell you is in this day and age, things have changed so much. In the olden days, that means I'm old if I'm saying that phrase, you know, the employers would look and see, okay, which four-year institution did you go to? What was your degree? Today, the great thing with cybersecurity, and I think computer science as a whole, it's a great equalizer. Now all the employer looks at is what is your skill set? And just as you saw in that video, you can develop a cybersecurity skill set at a very young age. I mean, I'm seeing kids as young as 16 be expert in cyber, whether they're a cyber hacker or an ethical hacker or someone who understands network intrusion, it's at a very young age. So what I would say is there are companies that are willing to take a chance on someone as young as 18 if they have the right skill set. So what I would say is try and develop your skill set as early as possible, and you're going to see opportunities at a very young age.
Thank you very much. I think that was a very important point to make to this crowd out here. The students in the audience taking advantage of what the opportunity you have in front of you is so important, and that the educators you have in front of you are fostering that so that you can be the next innovative workers out there to influence this world of cybercrime. So I don't see any hands up. I don't know if you want to say anything else to close, Mr. Matsuda, but
I think
right here.
now there are some
Come on
hands.
up. Come on up. All right, some questions. Come on up.
Hi, so
Hi.
my first question is, as someone who wants to go into cybersecurity law, what steps do you recommend that I take?
Well, what I would say is generally for law school, some of the majors that really help you would be English or history or philosophy. But nowadays, even other majors, even such as music theory or something even in the arts, would benefit you. Really what graduate schools are looking for now are people that think differently and can add diversity to their classes. So what I would say to you is any background that you have, if you show an interest in pursuing law school, will be accepted and embraced. And as it relates to cybersecurity in particular, many law schools now have classes that you can take once you enter into law school as it relates to cyber. But obviously, wherever you can develop those skills before going to law school would be a tremendous help to you. So pursue these pathways that you have here in your school. But what I would tell you is this: if you pursue these pathways, the opportunity, the job opportunity you're going to have is probably going to be way better than going to law school.
Also, second question. So, I know that you prosecute, so in many of these cases, do they often take plea deals, or do you see them actually taking these cases to court more often?
So generally the vast majority of cases that we deal with, they do take plea deals, and that's because if we're able to identify them and they are in our jurisdiction, the technology allows us to actually prove that it was this individual that committed this crime, whether that's through their IP address or some through other digital forensics that we often find. So usually you are correct, they are pleading guilty.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So in your presentation, you were talking about how AIs can even be like grandmasters in chess and Jeopardy and even law. It made me think that humans are losing to AIs, right? What would happen if AI start taking our jobs away?
So there are many jobs that will be replaced because of AI. So any skill that is repetitive can easily be overtaken by AI. Or, for example, accounting, right? Where if the computer understands the variables and the math that's required, there's only going to be a certain amount of variation between let's say tax returns. That is a job that could easily be overtaken. So it's a very good question for you to be aware of, to say, hey, wait a second, when I look to the future of what I want to do, what are those jobs that may or may not be taken away by AI? So what I would say to you is this: cybersecurity is always going to be, at least in the near future, an opportunity. Where you will not be, that it won't be replaced by AI. It will be a component of an overall cybersecurity program, but the need for individuals in that area is always going to be there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so near the end, you talked a lot about like the different jobs and how Amazon's hiring a lot, and like how there's a lot of requests for jobs, but like what's the most common job like asked for?
What I would say is the most common job for anyone starting in information technology is going to be the help desk, okay? And what I would say to you is almost everyone in the industry, all the way up to the CEO, most people started at the help desk. And why that's a benefit to you is, I guarantee you today, you could probably go to your high school and say, hey, could I help out at the help desk? And they would say, yes, we need your help. And so the reason I bring that up is it's a skill and it's an experience you can get at a very young age that everyone all the way up to the CEO can relate to, because they had that skill at some point as well, or they had that experience. So what I would say to you is start there. Start with a help desk, either at your library, your public library, or at your school, or even at a local business. Wherever you can find that experience, that is going to set you on the path towards a cybersecurity professional degree, professional employment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the most common cybercrime in Orange County?
I would say the most common cybercrime in Orange County is phishing and or ransomware. Phishing is just simply, as I explained, someone who's sending you a fake email trying to get your credentials. And the reason that it's the most common is because it's the hardest for you to detect. Because you may log in using your Facebook password, and you may get the email and it may give you what you think you're getting, and you don't even know that you've been compromised, and you don't know that the person is inside of your account. Because they don't necessarily do something to your account right away, they harvest the data that's in your account. So phishing by far is definitely the most common.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi. You covered AI's abilities today. What are your thoughts on like AI's future?
Well, I think the future is unknown, right? Because so AI is based upon the data set that it has and the ability of the computer to analyze that data. So there's a new technology coming called quantum computing, which is extremely highly supercharged computers. So they can calculate more data at a quicker pace. So really the potential for AI is unlimited. But I think that we're heading to, it is possible to head towards a scenario where we as human beings may not be able to comprehend everything that the AI machine is doing, because it can calculate large data sets at such a fast pace that, as you've seen, there's already examples where it can outpace us as human beings. So I think the future of that is unknown.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I've been watching a lot of I've been working with AI for like a long time. Like when I was 12, I watched a lot of videos on it, and I've been doing that. And like one thing I notice is AI usually, it doesn't understand what its limit is. Like an example, one time it was asked to run fast with the human model, and instead of running forward, it ran backwards, and it was doing backflips and barrel rolls. And I feel like that could be a problem, especially in scenarios where an AI could take control of one's computer and prevent it from closing out. I know that's happened sometimes. Is that accurate?
I would say yes, that there's tremendous limitations to AI as it exists today. And there are many examples of that. So for example, you could take navigation, right? Or let's take autonomous vehicles, for example, right?
Yeah.
That's the computer actually thinking and trying to navigate a moving territory. Oftentimes they can make mistakes. So I think in line with the question that was just asked is what are the, where do you see AI going? That is one of the risks, is that AI does make mistakes. And it can lead to a lot of negative results because the computer doesn't have one thing that we have as human beings, which is an ethical and moral compass, right? So
Yeah.
the machine is just calculating data, but there's a right and wrong that we live by in our society. So I 100% agree with you that AI can often make mistakes, but even if the AI is doing what it's supposed to be doing, we as a society might think that that's the wrong thing to do,
Yeah.
right? And so that's where I think also, you bring up a great point, AI ethics, I think, is going to be a huge field in the future.
Yeah.
To say, okay, we want people to help us understand when we should use AI and when we should not, or when AI has reached its limit for us. Even though it's unlimited in its capacity as a computer, we as a society or a company have decided we don't want to use it in this area. So I think you bring up a great point.
Yeah, because like always, like point A to point B, straight line is always the fastest way, but you don't want to go through buildings, right?
Exactly. It's a great point. A lot of good questions.
How did you become a cybercrime prosecutor?
That's a great question. So there was a need that we found just based upon interacting with victims. So what you'll find in many government agencies is that we're very responsive to our community. So we were getting a lot of cybercrime complaints, and so we decided to dedicate research towards that area. So generally, just, that's why we live in the United States. We have a democracy. We're a representative democracy where we try and listen to our community, and we said, hey, we need this, we have this need. And so I happen to have a background in technology. I used to work at an internet company, and I find this fascinating. And so the opportunity came up, and so I pursued it, and that's kind of how it came to be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so my question is, are there any cyber attacks that you experience on a daily basis that you have to deal with? Like the most common ones that you haven't explained in your presentation?
So what I would say to you is, in my role, we don't deal with cyber attacks on a daily basis. Yeah. In that, the law enforcement agencies are the first responders. So if someone is a victim of a cybercrime, they contact law enforcement. Law enforcement does the investigation, they collect the data, then they present it to us, and then we determine whether or not we can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. I think what you're referring to, though, would more be in line with, let's say, someone who is on the IT side of, let's say, a company. If you, and actually if you ask the gentleman who's in IT from Magnolia, right? So you could ask him that question, and I would tell you that from my experience in speaking with people that run small and medium businesses, they could tell you exactly how many cyber attacks they're getting on a minute-by-minute basis, and it is in the thousands. So that's the other thing you have to understand. In these jurisdictions where it's okay to do cybercrime, they're launching attacks all the time. There's no resting. And so that's another area where AI comes into play, is we cannot be, as human beings, as vigilant as a computer can. So we may get to a situation where it's the computer, the criminal's AI versus our AI battling back and forth for cybercrime. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's how the system is set up before a case comes to me.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so like my question is, what are some important skills someone needs to have in order to work in a job related to cybersecurity?
Okay, well, what I'm going to say to you is these are important skills for you to have regardless of whether you work in cybersecurity. And what that means is today, when employers are looking to hire someone, they want to know if this person has good cyber hygiene. And what does that mean? That they know once you become an employee in a company, you get access to their network, okay? So they don't want to hire someone who's going to jeopardize their network. So what I would say to you is the basic skills are such that you're going to have strong passwords. You're not going to use the same password at work that you use for your other accounts. You're not going to do a lot of personal, spend a lot of time on the work computer surfing the internet for your personal things, that you're not going to download a lot of things to your work computer. You're not going to go to sites that could jeopardize the network. Those are real basic things that every employer is looking for. As it relates to specifically cybersecurity, I would say everything that you can take an opportunity with in any one of the pathways here in the district is going to prepare you. But essentially what they're looking for are those people that can do problem solving and think about things in a slightly different way. And a lot of times what you're doing in cybersecurity is you're looking at a threat and you're seeing, okay, how can I use the resources that I have to overcome this threat? And then think about, okay, where is the likely threat next about to come? Okay, so problem solving. So anytime that you have an opportunity to be involved in math, that's a great skill set to have that translates very well to cybersecurity.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What industries will AI affect the most, like either negatively or positively?
Well, that's a very broad question. I think where it will affect positively the most, I think, is in cybersecurity. So like I said, because the number of threats are so vast, where it would affect negatively, oh, that's a great question. I'm sorry? Financial industry, yeah. I think financial industry, it could affect it. It's like anything else, I think, in life. It's anything can be used for good or bad. So what I would say to you is, in reference to what the other question was, since we don't know the limits of AI, I don't know if we can even answer that question at this point, because we don't know how it's going to be used in the future, so we don't know what the negative effects could be. But as you saw with Amazon, right? Every one of these companies, okay, so do you watch Netflix? Yeah. When Netflix recommends something to you, that's AI. Okay, when you go on Amazon and they recommend something to you, that's AI. So all of these companies, these massive, massive companies, to improve their customer service for you, to give you a better customer experience, they are investing in AI. So I think that's where you're going to see it in your personal life the most, is with these very large companies that collect large amounts of data, the Facebooks, the Netflixes, the Amazons. That's where I think you're going to see the most, what they would view the most positive effect.
Thank you.
What things do you see in science fiction movies that might become reality because of AI?
Oh man, you're asking the wrong person. I don't watch any science fiction stuff. I like nonfiction. But I guess what I would tell you is that some of the things that I showed you today, that I used to think I would only see in movies when I was young are happening today. So deep fakes and deep fake voice technology, which I just thought never could exist, are here today. And I think that is very scary. And I mean, you saw the video, the person is talking in real time and it's coming out of President Obama's mouth. So that to me is really scary, that I think we used to see in science fiction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So like a question that I have is, I watched this video like 2 to 3 years ago. It was about in Japan, and there was this raider, so he created like an AI robot. It's like, you know, like robots, it doesn't mean to have feelings or any emotionals, but he make her a human. Like how robots, she can feel what are you talking about, what's her feelings, is that hot or cold, the temperature, she can feel everything and she can talk like an actual person. So, I mean, in the future, it would actually become more advanced. Is there any problems going on? Like, it's not really about us, but it's about different countries, like wars, would it be is going on, or?
So I think the best way I could answer that question is this way, by saying, the video that you watched, although it may appear, it may look like the computer has feelings and emotions, it doesn't. What it's doing is it's looking at a set of data that tells it how to respond. And so the example I would give you is the video that I showed you, where the Google computer is making the hair appointment. In between the dialogue, the Google computer was saying, mm-hmm, okay. It's mimicking what it believes to be the appropriate response that a human being would give at that time. But it's not really feeling those things. And I know that might be hard to understand. But to your other point, of course, I mean, our adversaries around the world could use this technology in many, many ways that could really injure us. So for example, if there was a broadcast, let's say, of a foreign leader saying, hey, that they wanted to start a war with us, we would think that might be real. But it could turn out that was a deep fake, and it wasn't really the politician from that country saying that they wanted a war with us. So I think that these tools, like someone said, hey, what's the downside? That's an example. You bring up a great point, is that our adversaries could use these things in very, very negative ways that could hurt us. But you know, we're going to have to, what I would say is, now we have to develop, there's an opportunity. We have to develop a technology that can figure out if the image that we're seeing is real or not real, right? And that's what I think is interesting about cyber, is that every time there's a problem, it creates an opportunity.
So another question I have is, so if AI robots is actually are advancing and it is actually replacing humans, and it actually can become a human, close to a human. So in the future, I don't think there are going to be like wars among like different countries, but I think there will be wars among people to people. So what do you think about that?
Well, I guess I've never thought about that, so I don't know if I have a good answer for that. But again, I guess what I would say to you is that it's not that the computer is a human being, it's the computer is giving responses it believes would be what a human would give. And I think, you know, I think generally to what you're saying is, I think in our society today, we've become more divided overall. And if AI technology divides us further, then yes, I think that we're going to be in a situation where we may be struggling with each other. And I think, to answer your question though, again, the moral compass that we have as a society, we should use that to have ethical bodies set up to rein in AI so we never reach that point. Because the computers are going to think and do things because they're computers. It's up to us, and it's our responsibility to regulate their behavior so we don't reach that point, so we can all work together to move the technology forward for the benefit of all of us and not to divide us.
So you sort of answered my question. I was gonna ask if AI was gonna divide us or bring us together because not everyone has equal opportunities or privileges to be where we're at. So I guess I have to ask a question. Yeah, sorry, sir.
No worries.
That was more of a comment. So.
No worries.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh, okay. Do you think even though our cybersecurity advances, there's still hackers that will they still be able to attack us because they are kind of ahead of us? Will we ever surpass them? I mean, we do hope so. We do.
So what I would say to you is think of it this way. If I build a wall around my house that's 10 feet tall, right? You wouldn't be able to get in, right? But what if you had a ladder that was 11 feet tall?
Yeah.
You're always going to be able to get in, right? And so I use that analogy to say it's always going to be a cat and mouse game, that we're always going to build defenses that someone will figure out a way to overcome, and then we'll build another defense to overcome that. So I think, history is littered with examples where there's constantly a shifting back and forth from our ability to defend ourselves to finding a vulnerability, we close that vulnerability, and then they find another weakness in our chain. And to reference my presentation, as it relates to cybersecurity, we as human beings are the weakest link in that chain. And so I think to start with, if we start improving our cyber hygiene, that we can start helping protect each other. And that's really where I think the value is to say, hey, as a nation, if we can increase our cybersecurity awareness, that would actually help prevent a lot of these attacks from foreign adversaries, and then they would have to become more sophisticated. So that's something that we can start doing today. But overall, to answer your question, yes, it's always going to be a cat and mouse game.
Yeah, it's going to be on and off. Yeah.
For always, yeah, for eternity, I think.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
My question was about how much cyber jobs will be created within the next 5 years?
New jobs that are created, I don't have an answer to that. But according to the statistics I've seen, just currently, in the United States, there's over 300,000 jobs that are available. Globally, it's 3.5 million jobs. So I would estimate that that's only going to increase, that the number of jobs will continue to increase because cybersecurity is such an important issue for not just companies, but for individuals. So I would think that the trajectory is for the opportunities to just keep growing. So for someone in your age, I think it's a path that you'll find nothing but growing opportunities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my question is, how many different type of coding languages are implemented in cybersecurity?
I'm going to apologize. I actually don't know the answer to that question. That level of expertise I don't have in terms of coding languages. I understand cybersecurity from a certain perspective, but I actually don't know the answer to that question. But I'm sure someone would be able to answer that question in the audience, so I apologize.
So my question is, do you ever think AI will be used in the military?
AI is being used in the military as we speak today. I believe it was, I can't remember what country, I apologize. There was an article in the New York Times just 2 weeks ago that a country launched either a missile or a drone strike that was 100% decided by the computer. That the AI found the target and decided that this was the moment to strike, and it was done by the computer. So it's already being used by the military.
Do you believe that, how you said earlier, the fact that AI was able to deliver a verdict on if someone was guilty or not, do you believe that AI would eventually take over that system of the courtroom and eventually determine who's guilty and who isn't?
No, so I want to clarify something. I didn't say that the AI was delivering verdicts of guilty or innocence. The example I gave was in contracts, that they did a study to look to find errors in contracts, and what they found was that the AI computer, once it was trained on what to look for, had a better rate at finding errors than a human being, a lawyer who was trained in finding errors in contracts. That was in civil law. It had nothing to do with criminal law. So no, I don't ever foresee a situation where AI would be used in the courtroom for criminal law, because our system of justice is based upon having 12 jurors, a jury of your peers, determining whether or not criminal conduct is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So I don't see that occurring.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, good evening. So I'm a parent here.
Yeah.
One of the observations, not so much of a question, is that there's limited opportunities for internship to gain experience for students that are younger. So even though the workforce might be needing them at a younger age, there's no, or not enough. I've gone to the same websites you've gone. I haven't seen a lot of opportunities. So that's an area, just more of a comment, if it's something that you're aware of, to kind of reach out to us and let us know if there are opportunities.
So what I would tell you is there is actually no limit to opportunities for young people. And this is what I would tell you is, have your child set up your home network. Have your child make sure that all your devices are safe in your house. And then once they've done that, go to the neighbor. And then go to your family members. When your child is 6 or 7 and they've set up home networks for 20 or 30 people, now they have experience that no other child has at that age. So that's, if it didn't come through in my presentation, the greatest thing about cybersecurity is anyone can do it at any age, and you can start learning it and applying it. You don't need any type of degree. You don't need anyone. You can watch YouTube and learn how to do all these things at home. There's a programming language called Scratch, where it's a visual programming language, and your child can learn that for free online. To reference, someone asked about languages in cybersecurity. I don't know all of them, but Python is a language that you can learn at home. So what I would tell you is that doing an actual internship where you work at a company, yes, that does exist, but that's kind of more of an outdated model. And like I was saying, employers, they just want to know if you have the skill to do what they want to do. And if you put on your resume that you set up 100 home networks, that is going to be recognized by the employer as a skill that you have, even though it wasn't a formal internship, if that makes sense. So what I would recommend to you is you basically create your own internship for your child, and you'll see that that has tremendous value.
That's a great suggestion. And then I do have a question with respect to the criminal prosecutions in the cybersecurity area. What new legislation are you working on, if at all? And are there, do these types of crimes, cybersecurity fraud or cybersecurity, it's so broad that it kind of can cross over to other types of crimes, such as financial fraud. What kind of charges do you tend to prosecute? Are they felony level? And is there currently legislation being worked on for, say, offenders who use artificial intelligence and act through artificial intelligence? How do you prove that the artificial intelligence was in control of this person, or took commands from this person, or was programmed by this person? So there's just so many aspects. So what areas of legislation are being worked on, if at all?
So luckily, because I work for the DA's office, I'm on the executive branch. So we enforce the laws that are drafted by the legislature. I don't actually work on legislation at all. But what I could tell you is, in the scenario that you've presented with the AI, it would be no different than anything else, which is, if you had a rock and you put it on the hill and you let it roll down, and there was a person sitting on a chair and you put the rock in motion and it injured them, well, you set in motion what ended up creating a crime or injuring a victim. So what I would say to that is, even though the AI may be used to commit some type of crime, if we could prove who set that AI in motion, it would still fall under, the traditional norms of what we would do in terms of prosecution. Generally speaking, the cases that I handle oftentimes are felonies, and that can be based on a variety of reasons. It could be dependent on the network that they're intruding on or the amount of damage that exists. But what I would say generally to you is generally speaking, the legislature is usually a few years behind what is actually occurring. And so I haven't seen any legislation that relates directly to AI. I also haven't seen a lot of crimes, at least in our jurisdiction, directly related to AI. So we haven't seen that yet. I'm sure it's coming, and I'm sure there will be a legislation at some point. But as it relates to financial crimes, you're 100% right. Cybercrime and financial crime often go together, but we use the traditional laws to prosecute that. Because when you're dealing with financial crime, at the end of the day, it's theft of money, and it's breaking into someone's network. So we have laws in place to combat that, and at the end of the day, that's what a cyber criminal wants, right? That they want something in return, so that some payment of money, whether that ends up being extortion or a ransom or whatnot, or money laundering or basic grand theft. We have laws on the books to effectuate a prosecution for the conduct that they did. The technology that they used, maybe not, but as long as we can prove that they were behind the crime, we can use traditional laws to prosecute them.
And just out of curiosity, do you guys have specific cybersecurity crime statutes or
Yes, we do.
enhancements?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So if you break into someone's network, there's a special statute for that. If you alter the data, you delete the data, or if you cause damage up to a certain amount of money. So yes, we do. Those have been on the books for a while.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, sorry, last question.
No problem.
So how has the development of cybersecurity impacted the way that law enforcement approaches like these offenders?
That's a great question. What I would tell you is that law enforcement has had to adapt to a digital world that they never encountered before. So what I would say to you is every crime today is a cyber crime. So for example, if someone gets a DUI and they have a cell phone, well, they may have posted something on social media related to them drinking before they got into the car. Or nowadays, some people are live streaming while they're driving intoxicated. And so we have to get that data. And so we may have to do a forensic examination of their phone or their laptop or serve legal process on a social media company. So law enforcement has had to adapt dramatically to understand not just what digital evidence is, but where that digital evidence may reside. There was a case, I don't remember in what jurisdiction, but after the crime occurred, they wanted to get the Alexa because they thought maybe there was a discussion or an argument before the crime occurred that may have been recorded on the Alexa. So I think law enforcement is becoming very adept at understanding what the crime scene is and trying to figure out where the evidence resides, especially in a digital format. So I think law enforcement is doing a good job, but what I would tell you is we're swimming in data, right? Because every case has a cell phone. That means every case is a cyber crime. So we actually have too much data, and it's very hard for us to manage it.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can we give Mr. Gupta a round of applause, please? Thank you for hanging in there,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gupta. It was a pleasure to host you this evening. We hope we can do it again. And I just want to thank everybody for spending a Tuesday night with us. I know it's difficult. But again, it was our pleasure to host you, sir. And I thank you for educating us in what is currently going on with cybersecurity.
Thank you, and thank you
Have
for
a
the
good
great
night.
questions, everyone.
Have a
Good
good
luck.
night, everybody. Thank you.